Imagine her, born in a modest home in Kuwait, the daughter of a Palestinian refugee doctor, raised in the shadow of war, a young woman who clung to life thanks to the upbringing and love for humanity she received from her family, and fate is leading her to one of the most powerful thrones in the Middle East. Her name is Rania al-Abdullah. That is the beautiful and graceful Queen Rania of Jordan, the graceful yet determined daughter of a Palestinian family. A figure who transformed from an ordinary young woman into one of history's most influential queens. And a picture of a happy family, a story of a strong and warm heart that beats before millions, not hidden behind a crown. Are you ready to watch it? The legendary news begins. In January 1993, on an ordinary winter evening in Amman, the capital of Jordan, the city was once again shrouded in its characteristic tranquility. A 22-year-old young woman, worn down by her colleagues' insistence, had reluctantly agreed to attend a dinner that held little excitement for her. Her mind was filled with unfinished marketing files at Apple, notes for tomorrow morning's meeting, and a career plan that was still taking shape. Her colleague wouldn't leave her alone. Going along and leaving early seemed the most sensible solution. But that night, the only thing on her mind was to finish the meal as quickly as possible and get home. Yet fate had already begun to weave its web for her. The moment she stepped through the door, though she did not yet realize it, that dinner would change her life and, indirectly, the lives of millions of people, forever. The young woman who entered the hall was called Rania Eliasin, a young girl from an ordinary family who appeared to be just like any other. At least, that was how she appeared to the outside world that night. Yet behind the scenes, a very different story was unfolding, and that story would open the doors of one of the world's most ancient royal palaces to her, forever. But first we must understand what Rania's story is truly built upon. For this is no Cinderella fairy tale of a girl dancing with a prince. This is the story of a girl from a people torn from their roots, fighting an unwavering battle to hold on to both her identity and her future. To understand it, we must go much further back, to the hot streets of Kuwait and the hopes she packed into her bag as she fled with her family. On August 31st, 1970, a house in Kuwait echoed with the cry of a newborn baby, and her family named this sweet baby Rania, meaning shy and graceful girl. This baby opened her eyes to the world as the daughter of a family with Palestinian roots, a modest family that placed great value on education. Her father, Faisal Sedki Eliasin, was a pediatrician who had come from the city of Tulkarim in the West Bank and settled in Kuwait. The presence of this quiet, hard-working man, who embraced healing children not merely as a profession but as a mission, left a deep impression on Rania. In interviews she gave years later, Rania would say that her father was her greatest source of inspiration and that she had always dreamed of following in his footsteps to help people. Her mother, Ilham, was an understanding, cultured woman from Nablus. Rania, who grew up with her two siblings, did not live in a house filled with grand palaces or connections to those in power. But that home was filled with questions, books, music, and high expectations. These expectations both shaped her and became the most important factors in opening the door for her to engage with the wider world in the years to come. Rania's family was part of the middle-class Palestinian community in Kuwait. This community was made up of people uprooted from their homeland, yet never losing hope. The wars of 1948 and 1967 had driven tens of thousands of Palestinians from their lands. The Gulf states offered them opportunities to work, yet they had no permanent citizenship, no right to put down roots, and at times, not even the right to vote. In this environment of transience, these families offered their children education as their sole true security. For they had no other safeguards, they had no land, and their permanent legal status was limited. But knowledge, wherever it came from, was the only thing a person could carry with them. Rania grew up with this value, and she carried this value onto the stage where, in the years to come, she would address the world from the royal podiums. According to one account, Rania, whose maternal grandfather was Turkish, grew up in an environment where Arab and Turkish cultures were intertwined. Rania came from a complex yet rich cultural heritage that was both Arab and Palestinian, as well as partly Turkish. And this depth taught her to view the world not through a single lens, but through many. After graduating from the prestigious New English School in Kuwait, which provided an English-language education, Rania moved to the Egyptian capital. She enrolled in the business department at the American University in Cairo. She spoke Arabic and English fluently and also knew Farsi. She later learnt Spanish and Italian as well. This linguistic richness was one of the clues explaining how her words reached people so directly and warmly when she spoke on international platforms in later years. She was exceptionally eager to learn, and this eagerness, coupled with the knowledge she accumulated, always kept her one step ahead. When she graduated from university in 1991, she had a clear career plan in place. But just then, the Gulf War, triggered by Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, displaced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in the region once again. Rania's family were among this crowd. They were forced to leave Kuwait. The place her family went to was Amman, the capital of Jordan. This move was not merely a relocation. For Rania, it was a fresh start. In Amman, she first worked briefly at Citibank. But the place where he really settled in was Apple's Amman office, which she joined a few months later. From the outside, she appeared to be the picture of a successful career woman. But fate had very different plans for her. Let us return to that January evening. A colleague at Apple invited Rania to a private dinner. When Rania entered the hall, one person stood out: Abdullah bin Hussein, the eldest son of King Hussein. His mother was of British origin. She was King Hussein's second wife and had taken the name Princess Muna. Also under his mother's influence, Abdullah had grown up in both Western culture and Arab traditions. Abdullah was a distinctive figure in Amman in those years. He did skydiving, he did scuba diving, he was even known to be a Star Trek fan and had even taken on a small role in the television series for this passion. Behind the identity of a serious soldier lay an extremely humane and colourful personality. But the most important truth was this: he was not the heir to the throne. He had been removed from the line of succession at a young age and had built his life around the military. And perhaps precisely for this reason, he felt free to choose a most unexpected girl for himself. Years later, King Abdullah would describe that moment like this: "The instant Rania walked in, I knew that was the moment. It was love at first sight." Rania recounted that moment in sincere words. He had a wonderful smile and infectious energy. We got on really well. But in truth, things did not begin so smoothly that night. Rania was aware of the rumours she had heard about Abdullah's past. There were gossips circulating in Amman's society. Rania did not want to be one of those names, so she played it cool at first. She ignored the attention, and for Abdullah this coolness was an experience he was not very accustomed to in his life. However, the prince persisted. He first enlisted a mutual friend to invite Rania to dinner. When no answer came, he called her office. When he received no interest there either, he sent chocolates. These gestures were signs showing the seriousness of his intentions. Rania finally accepted, and at that first one-on-one meeting, the two made a surprising discovery. A genuine conversation flowed between them. Not superficial, but deep. They were both educated people, curious about the world, with strong ideas. A dialogue was established that night extending from politics to education, from the complex realities of the Middle East to personal dreams. After that conversation, Rania now looked at the prince through different eyes. This man was very different from what she had heard. Only 2 months after they met, Prince Abdullah proposed to Rania. Rania said yes. And on June 10th, 1993, a wedding ceremony that would go down in history took place at Zahran Palace in Amman. That day, a national holiday was declared in Jordan. The people poured into the streets to greet the young prince's new wife. After the ceremony, the couple got into a 1961 Lincoln open-top sports car decorated with flowers and ribbons and toured the streets of Amman. The people cheered them enthusiastically. The next morning, the couple flew to San Francisco, where they spent their honeymoon. Rania wore 2 different wedding gowns that day. Both bore the signature of British designer Bruce Oldfield. The first gown she wore at the nikah ceremony consisted of a short-sleeved jacket with gold embroidery, a belt, and a full skirt. It was adorned with hand-sewn gold embroidery running along the collar, sleeves, and hem of the skirt. Her hairstyle consisted of a very high updo. But what truly surprised everyone was a different detail. Rania had not placed a crown on her head. She could, of course, have requested a borrowed tiara from the royal family. But she did not, because that day she wanted to appear as herself, not with anyone else's crown, but with her own identity. This choice was perhaps the earliest sign of why she would be loved by millions in the years to come. At that time, no one thought that Abdullah and Rania would one day rule Jordan. The heir to the Jordanian throne was King Hussein's brother, Prince Hassan. The first years of their marriage passed quietly. In 1994, their eldest son, Prince Hussein, was born. 2 years later, their eldest daughter, Princess Iman. Rania embraced motherhood with great love. While her husband continued to rise in his military career, Rania, as an active person, turned her attention to social issues. In 1995, she founded the Jordan River Foundation. This foundation focused on supporting disadvantaged Jordanian families and protecting children from abuse. In the late 1990s, everything changed dramatically. King Hussein fell ill. Doctors diagnosed him with lymphoma, that is, blood cancer. He went to the United States for treatment. During the long and grueling treatment process, his brother Prince Hassan acted in his place. During this period, Hassan gradually became an increasingly decisive figure in running the country. Rumours circulated that he was trying to form his own circle in the palace and leave permanent marks on the machinery of state. Returning to Amman after months of treatment, King Hussein was extremely disturbed by his brother's conduct during this period, and with his radical decision, he shocked everyone. On January 25th, 1999, just a few weeks before his death, King Hussein removed Prince Hassan from the position of Crown Prince and declared his eldest son Abdullah as the new heir. On February 7, 1999, King Hussein passed away. Jordan was entering a new era. Abdullah ascended to the throne, and on March 22, 1999, Rania was officially proclaimed Queen of Jordan. This title was not given automatically in Jordan. The king was required to bestow it personally upon his wife. This decision was not merely a matter of protocol. It was a genuine choice. Abdullah made this decision in the fastest and most open manner. Years later, journalists asked her what she felt when she first learned this news. The answer was a single word: I was shocked. This admission summarized the magnitude of what had happened with complete simplicity. Because Rania had never been trained for this life, she had set out to become a businesswoman, and along the way had found a prince and ultimately a king on the throne. And now half of that throne was hers. The coronation ceremony was a magnificent event. The people cheered her enthusiastically. But within the palace walls, at the same time as this enthusiasm, another scene was unfolding. Queen Noor still retained the title of Queen. That is to say, two queens were forced to live under the same roof. This situation was like a spark thrown onto the tensions that had been accumulating between the two for years. This young queen of 29 was becoming an active voice in education, health, and women's rights. She was gradually winning more and more of the people's hearts. Over time, all eyes turned toward Rania. Noor, meanwhile, gradually faded into the background. In 2004, King Abdullah removed his stepbrother and Queen Noor's son, Prince Hamza, from the title of Crown Prince. A few years later, he declared his own son, Prince Hussein, as Crown Prince. With this decision, Noor left the country. Today she lives in the USA and England. Her son Hamza was first placed under house arrest in 2021 for openly criticising the royal family, and then the title of prince was taken from him. Behind the perfect palace photographs lay a scene like this: intrigues, power struggles, and deep grievances. But Rania, amid all these turbulences, not only raised her children magnificently, but continued her work and tirelessly laboured to carry Jordan onto the global stage with every step since her coronation ceremony. Rania took to the field. She visited Jordan's remote villages unannounced, toured schools, and attended literacy courses. In the face of every problem she sought a way to take action. This unusual style impressed both the people and the international public. Her dedication to education took on the nature of a passion. In 2009, she launched the Queen Rania Teacher Academy to support the professional development of teachers. On the international stage too, Rania's voice began to ring out ever more strongly. In her famous interview with Oprah Winfrey, she said that sentence: "If you educate a woman, you educate a family. If you educate girls, you educate the future." These words were engraved in the memory of millions of people. In 2007, she received the title of UNICEF's first eminent advocate for children. She was the first person in history to receive this title. She spoke at many international platforms and drew attention to global crises. In 2008, she openly voiced to the public the devastation suffered by civilian children in the conflict in Gaza. She also became an extremely pioneering figure in adapting to the digital age. In 2008, she opened her own YouTube channel and uploaded her first video. That same year, she addressed the younger generation from her Twitter account. Today on YouTube, Instagram, X, she has millions of followers. Rania's way of using social media is markedly different from other royal family members. She shares family photos, reflects everyday moments, and people see in Rania both a queen and a woman who resembles themselves, who feels and struggles. The fashion world, too, did not delay in engraving Rania on its pages. Although she sometimes prefers established brands like Dior and Dolce and Gabbana, she always displayed a measured and elegant appearance. Her clothing choices reflect both Western and Arab aesthetic sensibilities at once. Rania also has children's books she has written for children. The King's Gift, dedicated to King Hussein, Eternal Beauty, published on Mother's Day, and The Sandwich Swap, which reached the top of the New York Times children's books list in 2010, are the most well-known of these. This last book in particular was used as a teaching material in schools. This children's book, which carries the message that different cultures need to understand one another. In 2010, Glamour magazine named her Woman of the Year. In 2011, Harper's Queen described her as the world's most beautiful spouse and state representative. Forbes included her on the list of the world's 100 most influential women in 2005 and 2009. She was honoured with high state decorations from Japan, Germany, Italy, Bahrain, Austria, and many other countries. She received the UN Peacemaker Award for her work related to children. But beyond all these awards, the identity upon which Rania would truly rest her back was never these lists of plaques. The motherhood she gave to her 4 children became a dimension discussed and admired at least as much as her queenship. Her eldest son, Crown Prince Hussein, married Rajwa Al Saif in 2023. And on August 3, 2024, Rania and Abdullah became a grandmother and grandfather. Their first grandchild, Princess Iman, came into the world. Shortly after, their eldest daughter, Princess Iman, also united her life with Jamil Alexander Thermiotis in 2023. Their daughter, Amina, was born in February 2025. Thus, Rania became the grandmother of 2 grandchildren. While sharing these news on social media, the light in her eyes was aligned with the message she had given to millions of people over decades, that family, love, and bonds come before everything. Queen Rania's marriage of more than 30 years with King Abdullah surprised many observers, because her father-in-law, King Hussein, had been married 4 times, and Abdullah's image as a playboy in his youth had led many people to think he too would take a similar path. But it was nothing like that at all. Both of them represent a genuine love, both in visible and in private moments. Today, Rania is 56 years old. She has been Queen of Jordan for nearly more than a quarter century. Over the years, her face has changed very little, and that charismatic, clear, and people-touching energy of hers has never changed. Is like a summary of Rania's entire career. The life journey that began as the daughter of a refugee made her one of the most remarkable queens of Palestinian origin in history. But this story is not only a story of ascent, this is the story of gaining power without losing one's identity. Rania's life reminds us of this. Real power sometimes does not sprout at palace gates. It sprouts in a small home, in a mother's prayer, in a father's labour, or at an invitation to an ordinary dinner party. The young woman who walked through the door on that January night perhaps did not know that the course of her destiny was changing. But she did not need to know, because her journey had not begun with a prince. It had long since begun with her own conviction, education, and courage. The whispers of palace corridors, the expectations regarding the throne, the public's unceasing curiosity. Amid all of these, Rania never lost one thing: who she was. That she was the daughter of a refugee doctor, that she was the child of a family displaced in the shadow of war, and that even while speaking from the world's greatest podiums, she was still that young woman who was excited on her first day going to work, who ironed her dress while getting ready for that dinner party. Perhaps that is why, even though her story seems like a fairy tale, it is actually very human. Because Rania's journey tells us this: titles do not make a person great. A person makes a title great. And in order not to miss such inspiring real-life stories, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until we meet again on the next journey, goodbye.